And now the good news. Hey, it's Friday, everybody. I know it's exciting, isn't it? Ah, whole weekend off. Oh, not for me, but for you, possibly. Anyway, I'm so delighted that you're here. We're here to share good news, a lot of which we get from the Good News Network and some from Sunny Skies. So if you're looking for good news, that's where you can find it every day of the week. And hopefully one day we'll be doing it every day here. Welcome to the New Thought Media Network and the good news for this Friday night. Well, let's start with a wonderful little story about bears. Don't you just love bears? They look so cuddly and cute. So, a bear shocks the vets by going into remission from terminal cancer after taking meds in honey, a rare treat that absolutely delights her. A popular bear in the Edinburgh Zoo was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given just days to live, but she stunned experts by going into remission after taking medicine drenched in honey. The bleak diagnosis for the 13-year-old sun bear named Babu was announced publicly to her supporters, while zookeepers tried to keep her comfortable in her final days. Only one similar case was found with a bear in China who died quickly after such a diagnosis, so little hope was given for Babu's future, a beloved resident of the zoo known for her curious personality. Vets said one of the sweetest parts of Babu's dilemma was how delighted she was to take her medicine, hidden in honey, which is her absolute favorite. Normally saved for special occasions, honey is a rare treat in a sun bear's diet, but it became part of her twice daily routine during recovery. The only downside to her remission, keepers joked, is that Babu won't be treated to honey quite as often anymore. This news is better than we ever hoped for. We've been able to stop her pain medication and now gradually reducing her cancer treatment while closely monitoring her remission. Living in the wild, sun bears typically live around 10 to 25 years, but in captivity, they can live up to 30 years. So Babu has possibly another decade in front of her adoring fans. So there she is, the beautiful Babu. Isn't that great? Who knew? Maybe we should be taking honey with all of our medications. Hmm. All right, so moving on. This common fungus found on human skin wipes out a deadly superbug staph infection. Wow. The University of Oregon researchers have uncovered a molecule produced by yeast living on human skin that showed potent antimicrobial properties against a pathogen responsible for 500,000 hospitalizations annually in the United States. It's a unique approach to tackling the growing problem of antibiotic resistant bacteria. With the global threat of drug resistant infections, fungi helping inhabiting human skin are an untapped resource for identifying new antibiotics. Described in a paper published last month in Current Biology, the common skin fungus Malassezia gobbles up oil and fats on human skin to produce fatty acids that selectively eliminate Staphylococcus aureus. One out of every 3 people have it harmlessly dwelling in their nose, but the bacteria are a risk factor for serious infections when given the opportunity. Open wounds, abrasions, and cuts, they're the primary cause of skin and soft tissue infections known as staph infections. Staph infections, also hospital superbug, notorious for being resident in current antibiotics, elevating the pressing need for new medicines. There are a lot of studies that identify new antibiotic structures, Kowalski said, but what was fun and interesting about ours is that we identified a compound that is well known and that people have studied before. The compound is non-toxic in normal lab conditions, but it can be potent in conditions that replicate the acidic environment of healthy skin. I think that's why in some cases we've missed these kinds of antimicrobial mechanisms because the pH in the lab wasn't low enough, but human skin is really acidic. Wow, how cool is that? Humans play host to a colossal array of microorganisms, such as the microbiome, but we know little about our resident fungi and their contributions to human health. Ta-da! There's another purpose for the skin. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? Well, moving right along. Whales. Remarkable right whale saga continues as vagrant pair become first ever seen in the Bahamas. Excuse me. Down near the Bahamas, a bizarre story is unfolding as two critically endangered North Atlantic right whales continued a rebellious streak. Maybe they're fans of Bob Dylan or the Ramones, but the whales, named Curlew and Koala, have spent the last few months cruising down the mid-Atlantic coast to the tropical Caribbean seas, something described as a once-in-a-lifetime event. The sighting of the whales was made by a dolphin watching tour in Florida near Bimini, about 50 miles off the coast. The ship's captain admitted it was something he had never seen before and thought the whales were fake at first. Right whales are extremely rare vagrants in the Gulf of Mexico, and there's never been a North Atlantic right whale sighting in Bahamian seas where the pair are currently located. Typically, this time of year sees these giant baleen going in the exact opposite direction, further north. Dozens of boats in Massachusetts areas, such as Martha's Vineyards and Broad Sound, have been ordered to slow down as dozens of right whales have recently been sighted heading north, a not uncommon migratory pattern that happened last year as well. It is fairly unusual for right whales to be seen in the Gulf of Mexico, and there are no recorded sightings of right whales in the Bahamas until now. So, what inspired them to take this journey will likely remain a mystery. In addition to the migration that's extremely unusual for two right whales to stay together for more than a few days, unless it's a mother and her calf. There are only about 370 North American right whales left on Earth. Extremely intelligent. There are no working hypotheses for why these relatively juvenile whales have paired up and gone so far out of their normal range. Vagrancies are, however, fairly normal, especially within the Eastern Atlantic population, which can end up in the Mediterranean and along the coasts of England, Norway, and the Netherlands. Everything about this sighting is remarkably exciting, Hamilton said. Woohoo! Well, we're going to take a short little commercial break here, and then we will be right back with more good news. You're watching the New Thought Media Network here and the good news.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome back. And now we have a very cool story. I think a lot of us kind of know that trees have the ability to communicate with each other, but this is really fascinating. Um, these trees synchronize their bioelectrical signals during solar eclipses. The world, the wood wide web in action. That's funny. More evidence that trees display group cognition and communication has arrived from the Dolomites, where a multidisciplinary team monitored a forest during a solar eclipse. These researchers witnessed two things: that the trees of the forest synchronized bioelectrical activity during the eclipse, and that the process of synchronization was started and directed by the eldest trees a full 14 hours before the eclipse even started. The results of their experiment was published in Royal Society Open Science, demonstrate both the incredible value of old trees in the forest in which they live, but also the extent to which our woody cousins respond to their environment. Using rugged, custom built, low power sensors deployed across a forest in the Dolomites, the interdisciplinary team, comprising experts from Italy, United Kingdom, Spain, and Australia, recorded simultaneous bioelectrical responses from multiple trees. Charged molecules travel through the cells of all living organisms, transmitting electrical signals as they go. Collectively, this electrical activity is known as the organism's electrome, and the scientists set out to observe this phenomena during the hour-long eclipse. The idea was simple. An eclipse is a profound event that inspires awe and collective behavior in both humans and other animals. This then would be the best opportunity to see whether trees can react collectively. Though some have theorized that trees can communicate through other methods, like shadows and odors, bioelectrical signals are the only known way a tree interacts with its environment in a manner that resembles dialogue. Hmm. By applying advanced analytical methods, including complexity measures and quantum field theory, we have uncovered a deeper, previously unrecognized dynamic synchronization not based on matter exchanges among trees. We now see the forest not as a mere collection of individuals, but as an orchestra of phase correlated plants, an orchestra of plants. The electrical activity of all three trees became significantly more synchronized during the eclipse, both before and during the 1 hour event. The two older trees in the study, about 70 years old, had a much more pronounced early response to the impending eclipse than the young tree. This suggests older trees may have developed mechanisms to anticipate and respond to such events, similar to the responses to seasonal changes, since solar eclipses occur on a cycle as well. Bioelectrical waves were recorded traveling between the trees as well. Additionally, the team attached electrodes to several stumps from trees that had been devastated by a storm from the previous year. They also showed bioelectric synchronization, although at a lower level, suggesting they were still alive and participating. This is a remarkable example of the wood wide web in action, and we think that it's going to inspire new science in this direction. But it also has deep ramification on how we deal with conservation. It reinforces the idea that the old trees cannot simply be replaced by replanting. They need to be protected because they hold ancestral memories that allow for resilience and adaptation. How cool is that? Go out in your yard and have a chat with your tree tonight. See how it's doing. I thought that was the coolest story ever because I knew trees communicated with each other, but I just didn't understand how. All right, NBA's Warriors host a unique sneaker repair clinic teaching youth how to refresh old kicks. So, educating and encouraging people to reduce their waste footprint doesn't always have to be done through fear or social pressure. It can be fun and empowering as well. That's what the Soul Space Lab in Oakland is doing, reducing the amount of waste from the footwear industry by teaching kids and teens how to level up their old kicks through cobbling and customization classes. There are billions of shoes made around the world every year, and in another story on the topic, Good News Network recently reported that the average American will own about 250 pair of shoes in a lifetime. That's a lot of waste. But it doesn't have to be this way. Jeff Pearlstein, founder of the Soul Space Lab, is trying to help people see that and believe that with a bit of vinyl glue, paint, and a sewing machine, he can make a major difference in this community and the world. Lots of people are concerned about the future of our planet, our impact on it, but feel kind of helpless. So, this is a real opportunity for people to make a difference, to be very hands on, and also express their creativity at the same time. A unique sneaker, pardon me, a unique sneaker repair shop, the Soul Space Lab, teaches folks how to upcycle, refurbish, or customize their shoes. The resulting handicraft is pretty cool and more often than not reflects the wearer's personality and interests. In the Bay Area, some made in a Wu-Tang Clan style, some repaired using corkwood, and others customized in the colors of the Golden State Valkyries. But what's cooler than the shoes are some of the people helping spread the word about the lab's mission. Former Golden State Warrior Adonal Foyle helped to give away some lightly worn, very cool sneakers in an event outside the Warriors' home arena of the Chase Center called Sustainable Soul. When he played for the Warriors, shoes came and went like Gatorade bottles. And isn't that true? As a professional athlete, you go through your shoes fairly quickly because they have to be right on the money. And you know, it's interesting. When I was in Kenya last year, we went to a shop, and it was called Soul something as well. And what they would do is take flip flops and make them into all manner of things. They'd make them into, giraffes and hippopotamuses, a chair. For Volkswagen, they made a Volkswagen out of it. They're colorful, they're beautiful, and it was really a remarkable thing to see that this was a way of getting all these old flip-flops out of the ocean, off the beaches, and into something new. So they pay people to bring them in, and then they scrub them up, reuse them, repurpose them, and something beautiful comes from them. All right. So speaking of Africa, so this nurse swaps medicine for mangoes after Epiphany. Patients were malnourished while fruit rots all around. In Uganda, a nurse was excited to start practicing medicine, but realized only afterwards that his patients didn't so much need pharmaceuticals as proper nutrition. 14 years ago, in northern Uganda's Yombe district, Francis Asiku was riding home from that nursing job, having witnessed a 4-year-old suffering from acute malnutrition. It was a disturbing experience, he admits. But while passing by some mango trees in the village of Midigo, he saw birds feasting on mangoes that were rotting on the ground. A question stopped his pedals and his mind. Why were the birds eating that nutritious fruit? Why was it left to rot? The epiphany which followed gave rise to the Mango Project, a local-led initiative to preserve mangoes from the 2 harvests per year and get them into the mouths of the least fortunate children. Should we wait for the government to come to our rescue, and yet the situation keeps getting worse? He remembers asking his earliest colleagues on the Mango Project. Malnutrition is a problem across Africa, and Uganda is no exception. Christian Science Monitor, reporting on the Mango Project, claimed that 1/4 of children have stunting, a condition that is associated with malnutrition. One large mango isn't exactly a superfood, but it does contain a whole day's supply of vitamin C and impactful amounts of copper, potassium, folate, vitamin A, manganese, and vitamin E. The problem which Asiku and the village elders who own the land the mangoes grow on faced was that 40% of mangoes are lost because communities like Mitigo can't afford refrigeration to preserve the fruit. The Mango Project embarked an effort to slice mangoes every spring and winter harvest and preserve them in jars of boiled water and a bit of sugar. Like this, they can last a year. The jars are then delivered to health centers and refugee settlements. During the COVID-19 years, the project distributed 12,000 jars of mangoes. Do. Ah, yes. A little imagination and a little bit of effort, and we have the answer. Okay, so here's an interesting story. Aren't they all, though? So, amateur archaeologists unearth a winged goddess right at Hadrian's Wall. Oh, look at this. This is very cool. Two amateur English archaeologists made a major find at a famous site in Britain when they turned up a carved relief of the winged goddess of victory. Believed to have been part of a much larger ornament, the pair found it during their 21st year of volunteer excavation. Vindolanda was the site of a Roman fort near Hadrian's Wall and has been under spade and trowel for decades. Only 1/4 of the sprawling complex has been explored, and currently teams of professionals and volunteers are digging at the site's infantry barracks. Dillis and Jim Quinlan came from Liverpool every year during the excavation season to help uncover Britain's past. Despite their enduring love of history and archaeology, they have spent most of their career in civics and medicine. It's the best part of relaxation that we know of. We eat well, sleep well, we're in good company, and there's always more to learn. What more could you ask for? Well, recently, their efforts yielded the greatest reward yet, a rather humble carving of a winged goddess of victory, an icon from Roman times believed to personify victory and which was associated with battle. It's little surprise then to have been found near the barracks. A statement on the find reads that the stone is thought to be one side of a much larger relief, which should have framed an inscription in its center. These particular barricades at Vindolanda were built at the end of a tumultuous time for the Romans in Britain in 2000 CE, just after the end of the Severan Wars. The barracks were once adorned with large ornamental arches and gates, and precisely the location where an inscription may have been present. The relief of victory is poignant. Boy, some days my mind goes faster than my mouth. Hard to believe, right? Representing the end of the war and the establishment of the fort at the site. All righty, well, moving right along. Young adults, oh my gosh, the offline zone. Oh my goodness. Young adults joining offline clubs across Europe to replace screen time with real time. Yes. Not everyone pines for the days without cell phones, but what about social media? Would you erase social media from the history books if you could? If you said yes, you share the feelings of a staggering 46% of teenage respondents to a recent survey from the British Standards Institution, which also found that 68% of respondents said they felt worse when they spent too much time on their socials. Despite often being seen as the most vulnerable generation to smartphone addiction and social media use, it appears teens who in any generation are extremely quick to pick up emerging social trends are picking up on the negative impact social media has had on their lives and are enthusiastically looking to cut back. Enter the offline club, who ironically have 530,000 followers on Instagram, which is kind of funny, right? A Dutch social movement looking to create screen-free public spaces and events in cafes to revive the time before phones when board games, social interaction, and reading were the activities observed in public. They also hold digital detox retreats where participants unplug from not only their smartphones, but computers too, and experience a life before the internet. Well, I know all about that life because I was born then. All right. 19-year-old 19-year-old won $100,000 for inventing a cheaper, faster way to make antiviral drugs out of corn husks. Yes, he did. Self-ascribed as merely someone from a small village in a small European country, young Adam won the top prize in America's most prestigious science fair with his invention of a quicker, cheaper method of making a popular antiviral drug out of corn husk, reducing the cost per gram from $75 to just 12, and the production time per batch from 9 days to just 5. It could dramatically increase the supply of, yeah, I can't say that, used to treat RNA viruses, Ebola, Marburg, Zika, and SARS-CoV-2. The 19-year-old from Slovakia flew to Ohio to attend the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair, the world's largest pre-college science fair. He won the $100,000 Innovator Award for his presentation on the production of galidosivir from corn waste, which the judges described as a bulletproof presentation. Wow. And our last story, let's be quick, we're running out of time. A super mom sticks to her breastfeeding schedule while running 60-mile ultra marathon 6 months postpartum, hoping to get her sanity and slight insanity back after giving birth to her first child. A Canadian runner has completed a 60-mile run through Wales just 6 months after the baby was born. It didn't get in the way of her duties as a mother, however, and Stephanie Case was determined to breastfeed all along the way. The Ultra Trail Snowdonia race in Erie, Wales, runs 100 kilometers through the region's famous national park. Case had already signed up for it 6 months before her daughter Pepper was born. Because it was her first ultra marathon since her pregnancy, she felt no pressure for any performance markers. She just wanted to get back on the trails. Way to go, Mom. You did it, and you did it well. Well, here we are at the end of another Friday and ready to begin our journey back to, I don't know, a weekend of rest and relaxation, little R&R. Well, while you're doing that, think of the New Thought Media Network. We have a radio station. You could have it out on the deck, radio blaring with wonderful, upbeat, beautiful music created by our remarkable musicians. And you could like, share, and subscribe, share this with friends. And in fact, you could watch some other shows if you're just lazing around and wanting to rest. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, consider giving a donation to the New Thought Media Network. Know that all is well, and we love being here for you. See you next week. Bye for now.